Hey there. This time around, we're going to talk about the second pillar in the mental training process for divers, and that is visualization. When we're talking about visualization, what we're really talking about is, if you ever had a dream that was super, super realistic, it was so realistic that you really kind of had a hard time telling whether or not it was real. You wake up and you sort of question whether or not it's real, and that's a hint as to the power of your mind and your ability to sort of blur the difference between what you've imagined and what you experience as real. And elite athletes in all sports use this understanding of that blurring between what's real and what's imagined to augment their training and really get some huge benefits out of this. As we become more and more competent at some of the mental aspects of our sport, we can actually perform perfect practice, precise, consistent, perfect practice in our minds, and that practice is really almost as effective as actual practice. In some ways, it's more effective because as you become better at it, you will eliminate errors in your mental practice much more quickly than you eliminate errors in real world practice. The power of this is that your mind and your body really don't differentiate between things that are imagined and things that really occur. So you can basically train your body with perfect practice. How do we do this? Well, I'm going to take you through a couple of drills that we can do to start to develop this skill. This is not something that you're probably going to do one time and have it all figured out. You're going to have to be persistent and consistent about how you address this and keep at it. Don't give up. You may very well struggle at first. You may have some difficulty visualizing in the way you want, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but don't give up. Keep plodding away and you will develop this skill. It's just like strength in any muscle. The more you work on it, the stronger you get, the better you get. We begin with our last video, which was about relaxation. And my recommendation to you is that the first thing you do as you get ready to visualize is take 3 to 5 minutes and sit in a calm, focused practice where you sit upright, legs crossed, and do some deep breathing and relaxation just to get your mind in the right place. Now, for visualization, we're not just going to sit still. We're not going to lay flat. We're actually going to stand up. It's like modeling, right? So now we're going to add the next level to that modeling, which is to do the modeling with your eyes closed and to actually visualize those dives happening. And you'll even be able to perfect little issues that you know you're having. You've talked with your coach, you're having a little trouble holding your arms long enough in your first reach. That's exactly how we're going to be able to address that, is through modeling and visualization in tandem. Once we've completed a calm, focused practice and got ourselves sort of in the right mindset for this whole thing, we can do some drills to bring ourselves up to speed on some basic visualization practices. So, easy enough when we are sitting with our eyes closed, practicing our nice deep breathing, just like we did with our calm, focused practice from the last video. We can imagine a black background, completely black, which is really easy because you've already got your eyes closed. Now, on that black background, try to imagine a white dot. Try to make it as clear as possible. See a black background with a white dot on it. Now, next, you can challenge yourself by adding a line, creating a shape in your mind. Can you picture a triangle, a white triangle on a black background in your mind? Can you picture a circle? Can you change that color as you focus on it, just through the will of your own thought. Change it to orange, change it to red. These simple shapes are the beginning of your ability to really improve your diving through visualization. Now, once we get comfortable with imagining different shapes and being able to easily transition between shapes and colors, we can start to tinker with actual objects. Some of the things that people find helpful, let's say we're going to imagine an object now. We've already imagined shapes. We are going to visualize an object. Find something in your immediate area that you want to visualize, and just cheat. Look right at it. I have a little thing of chapstick stuff here. I can look at it, I can see it, and then I can close my eyes and I can picture it in my mind. You have a single object and you just picture and imagine holding that. These are really simple starting points, right? Now, can you take that object? Can you move it in your mind? Can you change shape? Can you change position of that object in your mind and rotate it? These are the sorts of things that we can practice as we go along and refine our visualization skills. So now, once you are feeling good about your shape and object visualizations, we can move on to imagining your pool. What pool do you train at? What are the sounds that you hear when you stand in that pool? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it noisy or quiet? What are the smells and the feelings? What are the emotional elements of being in that place? Those are all incredibly important, because as we go through this, what we want to do is fortify our visualizations with physical positioning, right? When I visualize a hurdle, I want to physically move my leg through that knee up and step down and leave your arms up movement, right? I want to imagine all of the sounds and the feeling of being in that space and experiencing that thing. The more of those elements and senses that we can incorporate into our visualizations, the more powerful they are inside our heads, the more convincing they are to our body, so that essentially inside your mind, there is no difference between an actual training session and a virtual training session inside your mind, except that with some effort, you can become really good at having perfect practices instead of the practices that we really have in real life, where we make mistakes and we miss things. The first place to picture yourself is your home pool. Why? Because it's so familiar. You're going to be able to recall all of those feelings and senses and really make it powerful. You can cheat a little bit, right? You can look up photographs of the pool that you train in. You can watch videos from that pool. You can visualize while those videos play in the background to really raise the realism of that visualization. So now we're in the space, right? We can imagine ourselves now in the space, even though we are standing in our living room with our eyes closed. You are there in your pool. Can you picture yourself doing a front lineup? Let's imagine yourself on a 3-meter springboard, standing on the very end of the board. Your arms are in a T, you're bent in half, your legs are straight. You rise up on your toes, you fall off the board, bring your arms up the sides of your body, grip your hands in a rip entry position, and vanish into the water, perfectly vertical. Can you picture that? Did you mess the lineup up? Was it hard for you to get it right? Do you have to do it a few times to get it to go straight up and down and rip? A lot of people struggle at first with successful dives. Oh, I always wipe out when I try. That's part of the process. really super common that we struggle at first. Oh, I always do a belly flop whenever I visualize. You do a belly flop when you visualize at first, and then you persist and you continue to practice and you improve, and that's how we get really good at this. I would challenge you to learn to see your dives, visualize your dives, both internally from your own perspective and externally from the coach's perspective or the replay perspective. Both can have really valuable applications for you as you improve and expand your visualization skill. Once we have become comfortable and competent at visualizing in our own pool, we're going to want to apply this moving forward to knowing that you have a competition coming up. All right, we're going to go to the University of Kentucky and we're going to compete at the zone championship meet. So we need some photographs of that pool. We need some video from that pool. We need to know what the diving boards look like and the environment looks like. We can do all of that research online. We can gather information that really will help us to make that visualization before the competition even begins, well before the competition even begins. We've got our mind and body preparing for this moment. And then when you successfully go through that level of detail, it prepares you so well for walking into that facility, even if you've never been there before. I think that's a part of the anxiety that builds up for divers as they prepare for competitions, is any unknowns, right? I've never been to this pool. What's it like? What am I going to spot? Where am I going to see? How is it going to feel, right? All of these things are unknowns that can contribute to anxiety and undermine confidence. So by doing a little research on the facility that you're going into, you can really strengthen your confidence and reduce your anxiety going into a competition. As we go through this process, we want to treat it the same way we treat our diving, where we start with simple skills and we add on as we become more competent. No need to jump right to complex skills. Let's make sure we have success with simple aspects of visualization. Can you do a standing front jump in your mind and land in the water straight up and down? Keep it simple. Have success and then build on that success. Remember to use videos, photos, whatever resources you can. Golfers have actually used, if they're practicing taking shots out of a sand trap, they'll actually stand in a tray of sand to feel that sand and increase the realism, right? So be creative. Find ways to increase the realism of your visualizations to make them more powerful and more effective. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the important elements of visualization that have made them more powerful. There are 7 elements that we want to take into account when we are trying to optimize our visualization. The first element is physical. If you are physically in the same posture and positioning as you would be when you're actually doing the skill, you're going to be more effective. You should be dressed like you would be in competition. So guess what? It's time to do some visualization in your Speedo. How fun will that be? Try to explain that to somebody who walks into your room while you're doing that. It'll be fun. The environment. Can you create the sounds? Now, ideally, we would go to the pool. I know that when Laura Wilkinson was training for the Olympic trials back in 2000, she was getting ready for her run at the Olympic Games, and she broke her foot. And during that time, she had nothing that she could do except lineups and visualization. And she would go and she would sit on the 10-meter platform and she would imagine herself doing all of her dives. She had a full repertoire of visualizations that she would go through while she was on the platform. She could feel the rough text under her feet. She could feel the humidity in the air on her skin. All of those things were critical to making those visualizations more powerful. Turns out it was pretty effective because she won the Olympic trials by a long shot and then went on to win a gold medal in the Olympic Games in spite of that injury at a critical time in her training. And I think that Laura would agree that that visualization component was integral to her gold medal performance in the 2000 Olympic Games. The task, knowing what skill we're working on, knowing what's appropriate for your level. So in other words, you don't want to be visualizing dives that you don't do. You don't want to be visualizing dives that are harder than anything that you're working on. You want to stay on the appropriate task, and you want to, as you are visualizing, you want to focus on the things that are important to your dives and the things that your coaches are talking to you about in your training that you're supposed to be correcting and improving. Next up is timing. So it's a little bit tempting to visualize in like super slow motion and detail. It turns out that it's probably more effective to do your visualization in real time. We want to do it in real time. Step, circle, throw, boom. You're seeing it in real speed. Now, this is an area where you can also develop a slow motion visualization skill and see if that helps you. It may be the case that slow motion visualization is effective for very detailed corrections, that maybe you're trying to work on your hand position as you kick out on a reverse 1.5 or a reverse 2.5, and you want to leave your hands down and look at your feet, and that's a really hard, detail-y correction, and slow motion visualization may be effective for that. But in general, we want to visualize at the same speed that the actual skill is going to take place. Next up is learning. Keep in mind that you are progressing. And as you progress, your visualization should progress. So as you take yourself through these visualization routines, make sure that your thinking around these dives is reflective of exactly where your skills are, and as they improve, you know, you've gotten pretty good at stopping your arms in your first reach on a front 1.5 pike, and you've been visualizing and really emphasizing that in your head. But now that's not the problem. It's that late step out of the hurdle. Make sure that you are moving forward in your visualization and progressing your visualization in tandem with your actual training, so that you continue to challenge yourself, not just in the water workouts, but in the visualization workouts as well. So next up is emotion. Are you calm and relaxed and cool as the other side of the pillow when you go into a competition? Most of us are not. Most of us are a little bit nervous. Most of us are a little bit amped up. Do you think that Laura Wilkinson was unemotional when she arrived on the pool deck the day of the Olympic trials? No way. She was jazzed. She was full of adrenaline. I'm sure of it. Nervous energy. What we want to do is, when we visualize, we want to mirror the emotional content that we expect to experience in competition. I refer to that as championship conditions. How are you going to act in the championship meet, on the board, when you're getting ready to go? Well, that's how you should act in your training. So if you can simulate championship conditions in your visualizations, when you get into those championship conditions, you will feel right at home, and that's what's going to allow you to carry confidence through those big meets and in those big moments. That's everything. The final element that we really want to take a good look at is perspective, and we talked a little bit about this already. Are you visualizing through your own eyes, or are you visualizing through the perspective of the video replay and the coach's point of view? Both are valuable. Experiment. One of them will probably come more naturally to you than the other. My recommendation to you is that you learn both and find out what helps you the most. I think that what you're going to discover is that both of them are helpful, and that there are occasions when seeing through your own eyes is better. For example, if I were struggling with spotting a reverse 2.5, I would want to visualize internally, and I would want to visualize my point of view as a diver as I spin, see the surface of the water, kick. Whereas you might have some form issues where your coach is talking about how your knees are just ever so slightly bent as you're going through the water, and that might be a really valuable time for you to be able to visualize that dive from the perspective of your coach, see your knees lock out, feel them lock as you see that perspective as well, so that you combine those senses to make it more and more powerful. All of this is easy to talk about. It's much more challenging to do in practice, and that's why they call it practice. We're going to have to work on this over and over again. Good news, we got a little bit of time on our hands right now, and this is absolutely the best use of your time that you could possibly undertake right now. Let's learn how to visualize. So sit down, calm, focus, practice, get yourself in the right mindset, and then let's see if you can do some simple skills in your mind. See them from your perspective. See them from your coach's perspective. Practice those dives. And then, as you become more and more comfortable and competent, you can actually go through a simple workout. 5 front jumps, 5 back jumps, 5 of each of all of your dives. And you will notice sometimes you struggle. Sometimes you're going to mentally smack. Oh, I hit the board, I smacked, I missed the whole pool. Things like that are going to happen. And that is all part of your process. Keep working on it and you'll get there. Good luck. And we'll talk to you next time. Next week, we're going to be talking about mindset optimization. Look forward to it. See you soon.